Hi there, and welcome to Happy Earth Market Podcast. This episode is brought to you by New Orleans Square, creative places for creative people, located near downtown Las Vegas at Sahara and Maryland, in the heart of Commercial Center. Diamondback Land Surveying, Love Through Living, Bearlanders, and Happy Earth Market. On this episode, we sit down with Miss Sady and discuss her recent trip to Greece, where she helped Syrian refugees and Afghan refugees, and just went on the trip of a lifetime. It's really more than I can explain, so just sit back and listen to her amazing, heart-wrenching story. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy. Like and share. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Happy Earth Market Podcast.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Sam.
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Sady.
Sady's back. From Greece.
Back.
Yay.
So, I don't know.
So we haven't, let's just do the intro real quick. We haven't talked to Sady about her amazing trip. We've only heard bits and pieces via text when you were able to have connection to us. So, and then, of course, your videos that you posted, we got to watch those.
Yeah.
Which were awesome. And
so for the people that don't know, just summarize what you went and did so that, people that don't know.
So we went to Greece and worked with an NGO called Refugee for Refugees, which was founded by a Syrian refugee who made the swim from Turkey to Greece himself. And we worked with children from Moria camp in Olive Grove, which is an unofficial settlement that a lot of the overflow refugees live in, teaching math and English and social, which is like a recess. And then at night we did search and rescue shifts where we spotted from the beach and assisted with any landings that potentially would occur.
So you said he swam?
Yeah.
Like, how far a swim is that?
It's about 9 kilometers.
Okay.
Which I think...
What is that in miles?
I think it's between 12 and 14 miles.
Holy moly.
But fact check, I'm not too sure,
Right.
but I know it's 9 kilometers.
No, I was, anything over less than a mile is probably too far for me.
Of course.
So.
And
Wow.
he was actually injured by a missile strike, and the reason why he wanted to come to Europe was to go to Germany because he was told there was a good physical therapist there that could help him out. Mm. And it was his leg. He still to this boot wears a day. It's been 4 years. Still to this day wears a boot. Yeah, it's been 4 years. And he's just this week actually finally started that physical therapy that he came looking for.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you left, you kind of had an idea what you were getting into. When you got there, how was it different than what you thought? What were the expectations when you left versus what you discovered?
I tried really hard not to have any expectations because, until you see it, you only know the refugee crisis as a statistic. Mm-hmm. And, of course, I knew that it was going to be a lot of people in distress and, just trying to get their things in life together, but I had no idea the conditions that these people were living in.
I know I was with you. We did research before you left on, we looked at Google images of this place and, oh my God, we saw that it was the worst camp in the world and blah, blah, blah. And was that comparable to what was actually there?
No, not at all. Not even a little bit. You can't write the smells in an article. You can't write, the looks that these people and the children give you. So, the conditions are shit. There's one shower per 80 people, one toilet per over 80 people.
What are those? Are those porta potties?
Yeah. Some of them are in ISO boxes, but for the most part, it's just porta potties.
Like chemical toilets?
I don't know.
Well, that's a porta potty.
Oh, yeah, chemical. Yeah, I was like, I never went inside.
Is there somebody that goes and cleans those out, or do they have company? Did you see any
I never saw them be cleaned once. But also, we were only there for probably 4 hours out of the day, split into 2 different times, so I can't say that they're not cleaned, but based on what they smelled like, I can't imagine that they're cleaned very often. But I didn't think it was going to be as bad as it was,
Me either.
We saw the pictures, we read the articles and whatnot. I'm like, yeah, this place is going to suck, but walking up that hill for the first time and honestly, the smells, the burning plastic, the human shit, everything. I was just like, oh my God, and people live here, you know?
Right.
And then we would do olive grove cleanup, which is when we can go in through the encampment, and we picked up trash, and, you know, the kids helped us out, and it was a lot of fun. But doing that, you got to, like, see what it is on the inside of their encampment. And just, like, it's all survivalist. And it was kind of humbling in the sense to see, you know, women sweeping their porch with branches that they had woven together with other sticks, you know what I mean? Or, you know, the children, their job is to take the rusty nails out of old wood pallets so the men can recycle them and create structures and use those nails to create, you know, structures to put their tarp on.
Where are the pallets coming from? So I'm curious about this place. Is it literally an island?
Lesbos is an island, yes.
Okay, and how big is this island?
You know, I'm not entirely sure,
but miles across.
Yeah,
just a few, not a lot.
I'd probably say, shit. I'm not really sure. We could probably Google that.
I'll do that. You guys keep talking.
Okay, but it's not huge.
No, it's not a huge island at all.
Is it populated with people besides the refugees?
Yeah, it is. And the refugee camp is probably about 10 miles away from the actual city.
Okay.
So it's really difficult for them to, like, get in and go grocery shopping and stuff like that. They do that on purpose.
So, like, you're talking about a pallet, kids taking nails out of pallets. Where are they getting the pallets from?
I believe that they were donated by another NGO on the island.
Okay, so they're getting supplies from other charity organizations.
every people that can, you know, with stuff that they can help. Like, we have R4R has a warehouse where they have a whole bunch of, like, clothing donations and blankets and things like that, and they're just getting ready to start, you know, distribution where they'll bring refugees to the warehouse or bring, you know, the stuff to the camp. But it's a little hard to bring anything to the camp unless you were willing to give out 10,000 of whatever it is that you have, because there's so many people there. So many people. Moria is built for about 2,500 people. There's about 10,000 people that live there right now.
Oh, man. And how many actually live in the camp if it's built for 2,500?
About that much.
Okay.
And the rest of them are all the overflow within Olive Grove, which you can only imagine how big, you know, this encampment is.
Lesbos is 631 square miles.
Okay. That's a pretty good size island then. Okay. Cool. So there's resources there, probably, just not...
It's about, you know, the money. They can't work. They get 90 euros a week. You know, like, single men get 90 euros a week. The parents, like, if it's a mom and dad, they get 90 euros. But if it's, like, a mom with 4 children or more, which is really common, they still only get 90 euros. It's, like, per the adult, you know. And even trying to get their card topped up is tough because, you know, the group that does that, I think it's UNHCR, I'm not sure, they show up at different times in different spots of the camp.
So the guy, like, sprint?
Yeah, or, you know, or hope that you see him, or hope that your buddy saw him, or whatever. Wow. Or not miss them during food line.
Why isn't there any... Are these organizations not communicating? I mean, it sounds like there's not...
One organizer?
One in charge, you know, project managing this whole thing.
You know, there's really not, and I think that they try to do the best that they can within their resources, and even the people who are working with the government only get pennies, you know what I mean? So it's all something that's based off of a tablet.
Too, though.
Yeah,
like,
they're still super recovering.
Broke, right?
Big time. Like, we tried to pull out our rent money when we first got there, and we couldn't find an ATM that had the amount that we needed to pull out in it, you know.
Like, didn't have enough?
Yeah.
So you had multiple ATMs, or what'd you do?
We went into a bank.
Oh.
It's like
funny.
I didn't realize you had to pay rent when you were there. That's something I didn't think.
Yeah, since we stay in the house and they do transportation, I think altogether for the month, including transportation, it was like 360 euros.
Which is what in U.S.?
About 420.
Okay. That's not awful.
It's not. And the house is right off the beach, like literally right off
the beach. It's a beautiful
beach.
view, right? Like, that first video, like, I ain't even mad at this. But did you at some point feel, I know that you said you did, but feel some guilt about living in such...
Oh, definitely.
What those people would consider super luxury.
Definitely. Even for me, it was super luxury. We were like, holy shit. Like, we didn't expect... And, of course, the house is located to where if there were to be a landing, our response time to the landing would be 2 minutes.
Sure.
Oh.
Very quick.
It's so strategically located and super nice.
Of course.
Sure, I mean, you're on the beach. You're on a beach in one of the Greek islands. Like, just
it was
kind
really
of
nice.
dope. Like,
it was
you
very
gotta
cool.
admit that.
It was shocking. I didn't expect that. I didn't know where we were going to be. You know what I mean? And it was nice. But then, like you said, it became hard because, especially after our first OG cleanup, we got to go in and see all of the homes and watch like babies be washed with water bottles and,
Oh my gosh.
and like little tins, you know what I mean?
And they have to make a decision whether to drink the water or clean themselves with it,
They
right?
also have to make the decision whether they want to use their blanket to cover themselves or if they want to use it as a roof, because they're not given, you know, the
Anything.
supplies that they need to build a shelter, you know.
Did you notice, or did you see a lot of families like that live together that normally wouldn't, like strangers, families from different tribes actually coming together under one roof to band together and share resources and things?
Definitely. One of the last cleanups that we had, Tammy and I stayed after and were able to put on civilian clothes because we can't do anything for our project while representing our to stay like separated, you know what I mean? And we met a really awesome guy named Ali who spoke amazing English, and he was helping a group of people build the house, which is how we learned how they did it with like the pallets and things like that. And they were all people that they had met through the boat ride over here.
Oh,
Okay.
neat.
And they called each other comrades, you know, so it was like, yeah, there's a lot of community happening.
Well, I guess you bond under tragedy, right?
Definitely, and they're survivalists right now. They have
Yeah.
to be, or like the winter came way earlier than it normally does.
Yeah,
Like
here
the
too.
cyclone that hit the island,
Mm-hmm.
which was like one step underneath the Category 1 hurricane.
Oh, wow.
And that was crazy. That night shift was unreal. The
That's
everything
a video,
about
you
it.
guys, you put up a video right after that night, I think.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, within this storm, I put up that video, and they weren't prepared for it because usually, you know, winter comes towards the end of October, and they were all still in their just tents. There was no structures built. There was nothing, and it got flooded out. You know, a lot of people lost a lot of their
Everything,
things.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Soaking wet, and like you imagine a blanket over like as a tarp to go over them. I mean, it gets wet so fast, and then now the whole thing's dripping. you
Yeah,
know.
in seconds.
In seconds, exactly.
And
Yeah.
branches are getting heavy and
Yeah, it just
falling down. Yeah,
it wasn't good. And then the whole cleanup after that, I had just had night shift the night before, so I wasn't there, but Tammy was, and like none of the kids were out and able to help because they all had their own jobs, you know, working at
In their own
home.
home, yeah.
They're all digging like moats around their house to try and create like a lower level for the rain to catch. And,
Sure.
And like
Wow.
it was really crazy, honestly, to see like the transition from summer to weather, because they don't even have clothes. Like they look like little cartoon characters because they wear the same thing every time. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And they're sitting there with their like little hannies and their t-shirts just like freezing because their blanket is now soaking wet and it's hung over the tree that's keeping them out of the sun. You know what I mean?
How'd you cope with that, Sadie? I mean, it sounds...
It was a lot of crying, honestly. There wasn't one night that I was there that I didn't cry myself to sleep. And you just have to let it come out because it's crazy. It was a lot to take in, especially like once you start to build connections with these kids.
Yeah.
And you meet their parents, and like, you know, they know your name and all of these, and it becomes more personal. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like you build that relationship. It's not just like it's my brother because he exists. It's like, no, it's like my little brother because he's my little brother. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It is still tough. I actually, some of my roommates are sending me, I'll play it, little voice messages. There's this little girl, her name is Zore. She arrived just around the same time we did, and she couldn't speak for a minute. Like a couple of weeks, actually, we couldn't even figure out what her name was.
Oh.
And she just had this smile, like no matter what. She's just always smiling. She wouldn't speak. And then when you start to ask her questions, she'd get kind of like, and then go away, but she hugged you like she knew you, you know what I mean? Like crazy. And here, this is one of the...
Hello, how are you, Sady? Zoda. I love you.
No.
So they're all special, and that was one of the big things that I like taught from day one was I love you. And it's cute because I was taught by like pointing to myself and then the heart hands and you, and then every time we'd come and leave, they're like, I love you, and I'm like, yes, my job is done.
Yay.
Yeah.
You have earth marketed them.
Hell yeah, I did. That's why we were there. Yeah.
So most of these people come across from Turkey to this Greek island on boats, right?
Yeah, they're called dinghies, which are technically rafts. They are inflatable. They do have
Like
a wood
survival
base.
rafts?
Yeah, exactly.
They have a wood base.
They have a wood base, and then
What do you
around
mean
them,
by wood base? I don't understand.
it's like very thin, like almost pallet wood that
Mhm.
creates like a frame.
Like a frame around
Oh,
it.
okay, I understand.
And then the dinghy is like around it, and then the outsides are like inflatable like this. They're built for maybe 15 people, and 15 people is like pushing it.
Oh.
And these people come over 30, 40, 50, 60 people
As
on
many as
these
they can
rafts.
pack in.
As many as they can pack in.
Wow, so it's already almost trying to sink on the way over.
Absolutely. And like most landings, there are people with broken arms and legs just
Mhm.
because of the pressure of how many people that there are, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Are they paddling it? I don't understand how they're getting...
There's an engine.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
very small engine. So like think about like Coast Guard ships or even NATO ships, how they
Mhm.
have the rib,
Mhm.
that like inflatable boat thing.
Yeah.
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 That's it. That's
Okay.
a dinghy.
Okay.
So they come over on that. Some of them, which hasn't happened in a long time, I guess, but back in like 2015, 2016, they'd come on fiberglass boats, which seem safer, but they cracked. And when they crack and break, there's no like right side that's still
Sure,
inflatable or
sure,
anything.
It
It
would
just
sink.
And are they illegally leaving Turkey? They're running.
yes.
Yeah, so, wow, that's crazy. So,
It's a big smuggling business, actually.
Yeah.
And each person on the boat, child, infant, regardless, it's about 800 euros. And one of the translators,
That's a
Rohula,
lot of money for families, I would think.
it's a lot of money for us.
that's a lot of money,
Especially because
period.
these people are running away from.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand. It's not like the poverty that's here.
Mm-hmm.
They can't come unless they swim.
Sure.
And that just is very rare.
So these people are wealthy.
They're wealthy. They're high middle class, upper class. Like they all had prestigious careers and homes, and they escape trying to find freedom, and they come to Moria, and they're like,
living in dirt
yeah, hell.
blanket
Crazy.
roof tents.
I didn't meet a single person that wished that they survived their trip. They were all ready to die. Wish that they were like, Ali, his words exactly were, I would have asked Allah for forgiveness and drowned myself in the sea. Like,
Jesus.
Wow.
So did you actually rescue or go get any dinghies?
no, landing happened one morning that I was there, but it was, it happened an hour after our shift had ended, and there wasn't anybody to spot it, so we weren't able to respond. We got the boat report later that day, and everyone was really upset, but if we don't see it, we can't help because they're not going to call us, you know. We're the ones that call Coast Guard, or we're the ones that call Frontex or whatever. But the smuggling thing is actually really crazy. Right now, ERCI has 3 people in jail as accused smugglers.
ERCI is the
It's the organization that we were supposed to be
You were supposed to go
volunteering
with. Right.
And
Wow.
I guess in the north part of the island, it's fully legal to use thermal or night vision goggles,
Mhm.
but I guess in the south part of the island, it's not.
Interesting.
And I couldn't find any code or any law that stated this, but I guess it exists. And very often the police would come and ask for our paperwork and like to make sure that we were legally there and had like our volunteer thing that said like who we were with and affiliated with. And when they came this time, they checked their goggles and they were using thermal goggles. And I guess something to do with their plates, like there was an old military plate behind their registered plate on the vehicle
wow,
that they
crazy.
had bought. So they arrested them for smuggling and espionage. They're still in jail.
Dang.
And that was just because, you know, we're sitting there spotting, waiting for the boats, and we could easily be called, you know, the smuggler that's waiting for.
Right.
Totally,
That's
yeah,
scary.
that's definitely one of the things. You know, when you went over there, you say you were living in this luxury house. I kept picturing you living in. When I knew you were going over there, I thought you were going to be living in like a dorm, not a dorm, like a gym that had cots.
Yeah.
Like that's what I pictured, like a volunteer spot. You know what I mean? Like we would
Yeah.
have here. If you were volunteering to help out like in Katrina, you would have stayed in it probably.
In like
Or
a
a bunk
gymnasium.
bed.
In a
Yeah, a room full of bunk beds.
A room full of bunk
We
beds.
did have
That's
a
what
room full of bunk beds.
Okay.
So it was like a hostel.
It kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
It was a 4-bedroom house, and in each room there was like
Mhm.
2 to 4 beds, depending on the room.
How
2
many people
bathrooms.
lived in there with you while you were there?
A lot of turnover
Rotations.
because a lot of people are only there for like 2 weeks at a time,
Mhm.
and so I don't know. I think the most at one time there was 12 people in the house.
Oh wow, that's a lot.
It is, and it's kind of nice because the way that our schedule was broken up, like we'd have a 3-hour activity in the morning, 3-hour activity in the evening, and then we had rotating night shifts.
Mhm.
So there's always people sleeping, you know what I mean? So it's like, it never really felt like overwhelming. Like,
And you're awake 4 night shifts. You're awake that whole time.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Well, we take shifts, like sleep shifts. So if there's 4 people, 2 people on, 2 people off, and we'll take like a 4-hour nap.
Mhm.
Or if there's 3 people, which is what it ended up being because it started getting really cold, is we would sleep for like almost 3 hours each.
Okay. Crazy.
We'd sit out on the beach in the dark with binoculars and just spot.
No night vision goggles, just
No night vision goggles. Hell no.
you just-
It's too sensitive right now. They're criminalizing the shit out of all of the people who are trying to help.
That's insane.
Yeah, it really is. And like that was a big part of our training, was like what not to do. Like as we drive up to the beach, turn your lights off. Like don't wear the reflective jackets if you have your headlights on and stuff like that. Like you can't make it seem like we're signaling
Were you like, holy
anybody.
shit, this is sketchy as shit? Were you scared?
For like a split second when they brought up the smuggling thing, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, explain that to me a little bit more, because I don't really understand that. And then they broke down the whole ERCI thing, and they were like, this is fine as long as we do it right. And I don't know, I kind of just had it in me that like I was going to be ready for anything that I needed to do.
Yeah.
And I felt like in my gut that this was a part of my big responsibility in being over there. Because there's 2 NGOs right now that are actively doing spot and search and rescue. And we're covering the entire south side of the island by ourselves. And if there's nobody to meet these people on the shore, a lot of times, people hurt themselves, or they can even, drown trying to jump out and swim to shore. And, it's chaos. So if, like, we're not there to help out, it's shit. And the police are really mean. It kind of gives them, like, a nice welcome. Like, welcome, Europe, Greece. Like, you're in Europe. You made it. And then we send them to Moria. Which sucks.
That does. You look behind curtain number 2. Sorry. Like,
wow.
But yeah, so powerless. I would feel. You know what I mean? I would feel really powerless at that point. Like, yeah, I rescued you, but here,
Definitely.
not really.
And like powerless is a really good word for everything, because like especially with Moria, we can't. Even if they had given us space to do what we were doing on the inside of the camp, we couldn't take photos. We wouldn't be able to post about the fact that we were doing this in Moria. We couldn't do anything like that because I don't even understand why it's so illegal, but it is.
Because they don't want people to see how horrible it is.
Of course. And what sucks about that is like the NGO, we can't post and say these are what we're doing for our activities. We can't get donors, like donations. We don't have money. It's like this like endless cycle. And that's also to do with donations too.
Well, who's stopping it? Greece is stopping. Who exactly is stopping the pictures from being taken and all that?
It's Greece.
Greece, the government in charge. Why would they?
It's all camps. And their reasoning behind it is for the safety of the refugees. And this is also a really valid point, because a lot of these people are on the run. A lot of these people are ex-ISIS or militias, and if their photo gets posted and it gets seen back home, their family's in danger. Like, Omar's father was arrested after he had made it to the island because his picture showed up in, like, a news article or something, and because they claimed Omar dead after the missile strike, but he escaped to Greece. And so I don't really know what happened with that or how long, but, like, it's a very real thing.
So, just even 2 days ago, there was news that some ISIS were arrested in Moria, like 2 days ago. So is that something that's talked about a lot, or do you know what I mean? The potential that there's real bad guys in those camps.
Planning and scheming.
When they in-briefed you, with the only word I can think of right now, in-briefed you. When you got your initial training, did they talk to you about, this is a real thing, like, be cautious? None of that was ever said?
Nope, none of that was ever said. And I think also because Omar is who that he is, like he's the person in camp where if anybody ever tries to commit suicide or any like fights break out, they call Omar. Like Moria itself calls Omar. And so he's got a really good insider understanding of what's happening. And I think it's genuine that if there are people from like militias that are here, it's because they're trying to escape too.
They're trying to. They don't want to live that life anymore.
Yeah,
basically.
they don't. They to be recruited by ISIS. There's no out. There's no out.
Yeah, I knew that. I just had never. I had never thought I had never took any perspective of what you just said before.
No, me neither.
To think if ISIS was there, I thought they were there
being bad
for a purpose.
Guys.
For a purpose.
They're being bad guys, not they're running away to not be in ISIS. That's interesting.
But to the countries they're going to, like that is a real possibility that's why those guys are there.
So what about these kids? What did you guys do with these kids? What was the structure? What was the schedule like for these kids?
So 4 days a week we were doing activities with kids, so Tuesdays through Fridays. Tuesdays we did social, which is like recess. We brought like hula hoops and jump ropes and games and Legos and puzzles. Yeah, they loved it. Or we'd cut yarn and they'd make bracelets for each other and stuff like that. And then on Wednesdays it was English, and we have it broken up into like beginners and advanced, which is kind of crazy because beginners is like anywhere from like 2 years old to like 7 or 8, you know, and then advanced is all the way up until, you know, teenagers.
Right.
And we teach, you know, just basic words, colors, feelings, you know.
Is it just English you're teaching, or what were you?
English was the first main class, and then math is our other class. So teaching them the numbers, how to do addition, multiplication, subtraction, stuff like that. And it's really hard to teach kids that you don't speak the same language as.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know? And we had translators to lean on, but these kids that have no structure. Most of them have never even been to a school before. So like trying to teach classroom
run
rules.
this long their whole life.
Yeah, some of them even born in the camp.
Crazy.
There's kids born in the camp. Like
how long are these people there
How long
for?
have they been there?
Anywhere from, you know, just got here to 2 to 3 years.
And what's the exit for them?
They get transferred to Athens to a different refugee camp.
Which is the nicer one?
Yeah, they're all overpopulated, but not like Moria.
Yeah.
So, I mean, anywhere you go, it's going to be the same concept.
But there's no path to assimilation for them, path to citizenship?
I mean, that's the only place they can go is refugee camps. There's no...
You can live off if you can afford it, but you can't work unless you find an under the table or some sort of NGO that's willing to work with you.
So Greece won't hire them?
Not until they've been granted asylum. And that's what takes so long. That's why they're so, like, in limbo from camp to camp, just waiting to get their, like, black stamp that says, okay, you can travel Europe.
Wow.
Crazy. And how long will that take from start to finish?
It can take anywhere from 1 to 5 years.
How do you get it to 1 year? Money? Do you have the money to pay it? Or
Okay.
how does it work, dude?
It probably works the same way our immigration
I'm
laws
sure
do,
something to do with money,
somehow.
maybe the size of the family, you know, things like that. But it's so crowded right now, you know what I mean? And there are like between 5 to 1,500 people still coming every week. Like, and I think that's
crazy with that amount of people coming every. So was the south side what side of the island did they land on the most?
the north side, but it's a shorter distance.
Okay.
So
if they hit the south side, the current just fucked them up.
Or they started from like Dikili or a different spot in Turkey.
Because you could see Turkey, right?
Yeah, my phone connected to Turkey service. I was so
funny.
For like
I got the text. I was like, "Welcome to Turkey." I'm like, "What?"
It was just like, we already said it's like 14 miles, right?
Yeah, roughly, give or take.
That's not far.
And then
that's further than our house is from here.
And then from the north, it was only like 8 or 9 miles. So, like, there was one story that my coordinator told me where it was just a mom and her son, and the guy brought them over on a speedboat, and from Turkey there and back, it was a total 6 minutes. Like, it's really quick if you can do it.
Yeah.
That's the luxury crossing.
That would, they
That's
have the hookup.
You're talking about making relationships with kids, right? Which one, like, was there certain kids that just
stole your heart?
needed you, like they wouldn't let go of you? And
definitely Zore and this other kid named Orion. He's such a cute, like, little face, and I guess he was a troublemaker before I got there. I never saw that out of him at all. But the first day, he, like, ran through all the volunteers. I had never been there before, so I didn't expect anybody to, like, say hi to me, but they just are excited to see your shirt, you know what I mean? Like, my friend. And he, like, jumped off 2 feet and, like, into my arms, like a huge, big old hug.
Wow, crazy.
7 or 8. Little kid, little chunky kid, little spitfire. He was really cool, and he had a little brother, and I would always, like, sneak him candy, and because, like, we would give candy, like, maybe once a week after social, because I'd get crazy, like, but
oh yeah, sure,
but
especially on a shit diet. Here's some sugar.
Fucking A, because sweets are really big in Middle Eastern culture, you know.
What was the diet for them?
Rice and chicken.
That plentiful?
No, honestly, the way that their food line works, people get in line like 3 to 4 hours in advance, and it's not even a food line, it's like a food crowd. They run out of food quite often. Omar posted a video of the stuff that he got from the line, and he, with sticks, they were eating it with a stick, right?
Mm-hmm.
He took a spoonful of the rice and put it on the table, and there were pieces of the rice that started to crawl away. Like, it's shit food. I even tried the rice. I was like, I'm just curious, and Ollie's like, please, and I like made sure it was not alive first, and it wasn't cooked all the way.
This is a maggots?
Mm-hmm, like mealworms.
Probably mealworms or maggots just from that rice sitting so long. Because that's, man, like the foreign aid rice that they give from the UN and all that stuff, like
loaded with bugs.
Sometimes, but like the amount of time some of that stuff can be sitting, you know, is
they don't distribute
is a long time. No, the UN never mind. That's
a whole other story.
So it's not good, and none of it's halal, which is like kosher for Jews.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know, it's not catered to them at all. And a lot of these people, they've bought like the little solar things that are literally just like 4 inches by 4 inches that they hang outside their tent. It's only enough power to like heat up their kettle, which is huge for them. So they have tea, right? And like they make, I don't even know how they did it, but like I saw one family that had melted together a bunch of like plastic bottle bottoms, and were putting the rice with water and covering it with a towel, and then like salt and pepper with their own seasonings and stuff, because it's just, you can't eat it straight out of the box. That's actually the most trash that we picked up, was unopened food things just laying all over the place.
Really?
Wow.
Huh.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't want shit rice and chicken every day.
No.
I don't know, man. That's a tough place to be. What was the ratio of men to women?
It's hard to say because they had all of the single men separated.
Okay.
And we never worked in that area, so I wouldn't be able to give a good
I would
fact.
hope they wouldn't send two young pretty girls into a single man area.
No, not even the whole team even. We had like a spot where we started from and worked our way up with like the families and stuff. So it's tough to say, but honestly, from what I saw, a lot of kids were just with their moms.
A lot of moms and kids.
A lot of moms and kids.
Not too many parents and kids.
No.
Well, what would you do if you had the opportunity to send your kid? You would send your wife and kid. You would spend the $1,600, but maybe you didn't have the $1,800.
Can you imagine though? They're probably like, I wish I was still home with my husband. I wouldn't.
Of course.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's
suffering in the war. I'd rather do that.
And the journey doesn't sound simple.
You know, and Rohula, he was one of our Farsi translators.
Yeah.
It was his 4th trip across the sea that they finally made it. They got stopped by Turkish Coast Guard the first 3 times.
And what does Turkey do with them when they catch them? Just put them back on the beach?
They put them in like
Get
a
back
camp.
over there.
No, no, they put them in a camp, and actually Turkey's borders are closed right now.
Yeah, I knew that.
So they put them in like a small camp to process them, and then they kick them back to Istanbul. They have to start again.
Wow.
At least they're still in Turkey. I mean, Turkey's nice.
Well,
it is.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We worked with mostly Afghanistan. They actually separated, like Moria was a lot of like Syrian, Somalian. And
Well, obviously they're more city Afghanis too, right? So
there's a lot.
They would have to be. I can't see any of those rural Afghanis that have the money to.
Right. Most of them that I spoke with, they were all
from Kabul and.
Yeah,
crazy.
And like you'd see on everybody in Moria has ISO boxes, so they actually live in. There's like bunk beds, like so there's probably like 6 beds in them. So there's actually
in
like,
actual
housing
Moria,
in the actual camp. And as you walk by, a lot of the doors would be open, and it'd say like no Afghans allowed, like in their own graffiti handwriting. Like there was their own race wars and things that were going on. And I don't know, you can only expect that to happen when you just kind of like dump 10,000 people from the Middle East.
Yeah, we were
from everywhere, Morocco, like places that I wouldn't have even expected, you know, because
we were talking about that. Like, just I can't imagine what the black market is like inside there.
Oh, it's crazy.
Must be off the fucking hook. Oh, got like an extra blanket, so fucking currency.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, and a lot of drugs too. We picked up a lot of like makeshift bongs and like tin foil, and I found a needle once. And,
yeah, well, they like to smoke hash.
And what about the rapings? I read a lot about rapings happening in there.
You know, I'd never had any first-hand stories or discussion about that really, but Moria After Dark is a totally different place, you know?
That sounds like a movie.
There's a lot of fights. It could be.
Moria After Dark.
It could be. Or like an unfiltered like Showtime show.
I would like, we looked. Sam and I spent a couple of hours one Sunday trying to find
stuff.
You know, and as vast as the internet is, there wasn't a lot. There was one good Vice where how's Vice get all that access to everything? Like Vice is walking around filming everything, and with full permission. And then one other one that was like that was like another big news outlet. But yeah, not a lot of stuff. A couple YouTube videos, but nothing
news reports,
substantial. There was a lot of stuff,
reports.
but not a lot of stuff for us to see inside the camps.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And even with our content, we were able to do a lot of film and video, but it's all within Olive Grove, which honestly is the worst of the two, considering their living conditions. Like, they're literally given, like, a frame of a tent, maybe a tarp, maybe a tent, depending on, supplies.
So the people on the overflow camp, their next level up is into Moria, and then the level up after that hopefully is
it's
to the next shit camp in Athens.
It's really all about space and your ethnicity, and that plays a big thing into it, because they're not going to put an Afghan with the place that says no Afghans. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
wow,
crazy. So
how
slots don't
sad.
open up
How
very often.
Terribly sad. The whole thing is terribly sad, and just so shitty.
it's just, and it's frustrating, like, the more we learn about the bureaucracy behind it as well. Like, Moria, you can donate 10,000 blankets, and it will go into a warehouse. Like, they don't even donate what's given to them. They fundraise. They had this big campaign for, like, to a washing machine, like a huge, like, 5 load washing machine, and it's sitting in their warehouse right now.
Why is that?
Because it's in case of emergency.
What's that
That's
mean?
what they say. It's in case of emergency, and they're worried about.
Well, some of that makes sense.
It does, but only to an extent. Because if you have, like, thousands and thousands, and there's people with nothing, you know what I mean?
What
It's
constitutes an emergency? I wonder.
They're
if
worried
it's
about,
not-
like,
if-
2015, when there was, like, 40 boats coming a day.
Or also like that hurricane or the typhoon. Like the typhoon washed all the clothes away. So now this is what we need this for. What if we have to give all these people new stuff tomorrow? I gotta think that a little bit of that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just think if you're over there helping, I just can't picture a group of people being, we're here helping, but we're not going to give any help. Their reasoning is probably true.
And there's also things happening right now, like Turkey and Russia came together and made an agreement. Russia backing Assad, Turkey backing the rebels, where they were going to create a demilitarized zone through some town in Syria that creates a buffer between the government and the rebels, where there's no guns, there's no tanks, there's no whatever. And they gave them a deadline of the 15th and then I think the 21st of this month to basically take all of their weapons from the area, or else they're going to come in and intervene. And if they do that...
Russia is or Turkey is?
Both.
Okay.
And if they do that, Turkey's going to open their borders again and say, okay, EU, you deal with it. And like BBC projected, if this goes where... And honestly, a lot of people have complied besides 2 big militia groups. They haven't done anything yet. If they hold out, they are predicting it to be the biggest humanitarian crisis since the beginning of the Syrian war. Because it would leave over 800,000 people displaced. And that's within the next couple weeks.
There's just so little real news coming out.
They're not talking about it at
Syria.
all.
I just wonder how bad the war really is.
Yeah.
It's gotta be bad enough for all those people to run,
It's gotta be terrible.
It's not just a couple fucking shootings.
No, not at all. And like, a lot of it, I've heard stories of kids getting taken from their school and like their fingernails ripped off. Because there were classmates that were writing things like fuck the police on their school papers and things like that. Or, and like the gangrene and like all sorts of just different shit that parents are just afraid of. So even if their tiny town isn't like involved in the war, it's a matter of a freak thing like that to happen, where now they're bringing in tanks to like scare people into submission, and like it's crazy. I've heard some crazy stories.
It's such a boiling point. Why?
It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable.
It's real, man. We live here, so it doesn't feel real.
Yeah, and that's
it just
the
feels
thing.
like a story.
That's the thing that has really, you've been gone and just keeping updates off of what you've been doing. It's like we fight so many battles here in the U.S. To think that, and you went over there and you're fighting this other battle that's Syria in other bases. And there's so many of these fucking issues all around the world that are so serious and big and overwhelming and hopeless. It's stupid.
Yeah,
It's so stupid. It sucks, man. I don't understand why the world has to be the way it is.
Seriously, and like all the governments complain about the refugees, and it's like, if you really don't like the refugees, then maybe stop funding the war.
Stop
like,
warring.
maybe maybe get out of there and like let them figure out their shit. Like, it's crazy. And on our second to last school day, for the first time since we were there, and we're there at the same time every single like of these days, an airplane, a small plane, like a Cessna, like a small plane, came around, and they circled the camp like this and did a really weird pattern where we're all kind of like, what the fuck are they doing? Because the airport's nowhere near the side of the island. It came from the direction of the airports, and it's something that we've never seen before. And even our coordinator was like, she's been there for months, you know what I mean? Like, what is this? And the reactions from these children like make me sick to my stomach. Like the fear of like drones ultimately, and that's when it like really hit me, like, oh fuck, like I see an airplane, they see a fucking bomb, you know. And the kids like picking up their little sisters and brothers and just sitting and like rocking and like, you know, doing their like prayers and things like that.
My God.
And you know, and I was the teacher of the advanced group and Tammy's teacher of the beginners, and we're kind of like looking over at each other, like having the same like realization. And we both start singing rum sum sum, like trying to like bring them back to whatever, and the kids just weren't having it. And then there were some boys that were standing up and they're like making gun motions at the sky, and then there were some kids who were just crying and freaking out with their siblings. Some of them ran up the hill to get back to where their parents were, and that night there was like 4 or 5 stabbings within Moria.
It just agitated the energy so much, right?
It did, and it kind of made us start to think, like, with our conspiracy caps on, yes, but, like, is that something that they do on purpose? Because it had been calm for so long. There hadn't been a single stabbing, a single death, or anything since we had been there, and now the 4th week that we're there, this plane suddenly comes.
It could be some group wanting to stir things up for their own gain. See, I told you these refugees, or it could be a news outlet taking pictures. It could be lots of things. I don't know. But it's definitely somebody doing something. No one's just going to fly.
Regardless, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
That's...
It was shitty.
Those are kids, you know.
And that's embedded in them.
That's fucked up. They grow up, you know, as adults with that kind of trauma as a child.
PTSD.
They never get over that. You can't, that builds them. That, you know, we are who we are because we were kids.
Right.
We learn shit when we're kids, you know, and these kids learn that, you know, just bombs are coming their way when they see airplanes. That's horrible. That's horrible to have that kind of reality at such a young age.
Totally. And then for me, like, I see it and I'm like, well, if we were in Yemen, for example, and I were to see that, it would come from my town. You know what I mean? Through Vegas, through Creech, like, and like that whole realization was really fucking shitty. Like, I can only protest that so hard, you know, and then to like see the actual like effect of what that has on these kids and parents and adults, and you know.
And their kids, man. You know.
Yeah. And Tammy had gone out with Omar to do a few interviews, like, within the first week we were there. And she asked one of them, like, you know, do you know who's bombing you? Like, do you know where these drones come from? And they're like, no. The world? They have no clue. And we were sitting laying in bed.
Just the world's bombing them. That's
they have no idea. They're like, I have no idea. Everybody, the world, like, they had no idea. And so Tammy and I were laying in bed and like pillow talking about this, the lights off, and we just were like blown away that we've created this war machine that's nameless and faceless, where the people who are dropping bombs don't know who they're killing, and the people being killed don't know who's killing them. And this is how we're progressing war. And like, this is supposed to be the safer, less dangerous, less impactful way, you know. It's just insane. And like, to see it, like to actually see it, and like
the
see
aftermath
the
of it. Yeah, the aftermath of the survivors, the innocent survivors of it.
Right. And then to actually see their PTSD, it's just like
in children,
babies, like little ass kids, little kids.
So, what do you do going forward now? You're home. What's your next step on your mission?
Our big thing is just spreading awareness at this point. We realized how much we didn't know as well going over there. Like, I had no clue that the numbers were still coming over every week that there were. Like, they get anywhere from like 4 to 15 boats a week, which is anywhere from 5 to 1,500 people. And that's double that amount that are getting stopped by Coast Guard and Turkish police.
Sure.
So, you know what I mean? Like, there's only, statistically, 50% of people make it in their first try.
That's more than I would have thought. Wow.
And so, like, I've learned a lot. I know a lot of different outlets now to, like, read news that's real news and, like, to find, you know, the statistics that everybody has no clue about. So we've gotten a lot of content together as far as, like, videos and photos and interviews and, you know, our feelings and emotions and things as it was happening. And we're going to put together a presentation to hopefully be able to show at the different universities here in town and in the tri-state area and high schools that are willing to allow us to share. Yeah, so we can just educate the youth with what's happening and inspire donations or inspire volunteers or inspire people to vote, maybe, you know.
Or to write to their Congress members.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't know what the solution is to this one.
I don't know.
Writing, voting.
Well, because it's coming from a lot of different areas too, and that's the shitty part is how do you really pinpoint?
Well, and then you find, like, where you want to help, and it's how do you really help, because I can, like I said, get 10,000 blankets and give it to Moria, because you can't distribute that on your own.
Sure.
And it's not even going to go necessarily to where they tell me it's going to go. And I can't even tell the internet or my donors or anybody that we've done that. Like, it has to be done in secret. So, like, it's really, like, this endless circle of, like, hopelessness. And I hate to say that word, but it really is for the people who are trying to help and the people who need it. Like, there's so much red tape involved that there's really, like, there's no easy solution at all.
Sounds like the governments that be don't want these people to survive. It sounds like.
No, they don't want them to be there anymore. They don't want them to come.
They don't want them to survive at all.
Don't worry about it.
But we're going to start, like, the next portion of our project is going to be called We Know. And we're going to host either...
Oh, We Know.
We Know.
I thought you said Reno at lunch.
No, We Know.
Is there an acronym? Sorry, I'm not trying to be funny.
It's going to be called We Know. And we're going to host either monthly or, like, bi-weekly letter writing parties where we give, you know, a short presentation and, like, some facts to get people to start feeling.
You know, and as cheesy as it is, like, even podcasts like this are something you guys should be doing. You shouldn't. I love the idea about you guys going to schools. Go ahead. You weren't finished explaining.
No, I was just say writing letters to the government of Lesbos and also to our government, saying, you know, we know, basically. They try with laws and with different criminalization tactics and things to try and keep everything that's going on under wraps. But there's a really big percentage of people that know. And we just want to, like, flood the office with annoying letters. Even if they don't ever get opened or read, they're going to know that people know. And, like, that's all that we can do at this point, now that we're here. And I feel kind of useless and helpless in the matter because...
I think the best thing you can do now is just spread the word, man. Like the gospel. Just let people know that there's real people being really affected by real war that have nothing to fucking do with it.
Yep.
They're not fighting on either side. It just blew up their neighbor's house one day.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know what I mean? Like, spread the awareness like the We Know, and then jump on podcasts. Fucking go anywhere they'll listen. And, you know, like you said, like you were talking about, I don't know if you talked about it yet, but you talked about going to the colleges and giving the presentation. Like, that's all really, really good stuff that you can do. Because popular opinion does change stuff sometimes.
It does sometimes, but I don't know. This one seems like it's bigger than it's able to be fixed. I mean, I don't know, man. Honestly,
the only way that I feel like we're ever going to be able to stop the war in the Middle East is if we become non-dependent on oil.
Yeah.
And until that happens, it's always going to be a game of money.
That's actual stuff, man.
And that, honestly, we constantly, like, where we sit on the balcony, there's always binoculars that are out there in case we see something on the water or whatever, because you have a whole view of the Aegean Sea. And there was, like, this huge cargo ship, like, enormous. Like, it looked like this big from where we were, which means that it's really big in the water, you know?
She's spreading both hands out.
Like 3 feet, man. Like, it was huge. And Charles, this older Scottish guy, was like, oh, I think that's EU oil, you know, cargo. And I'm like, what? And he's like, grab the binoculars. Is there anything on it? Like labeling? And it was a completely black ship, no labels whatsoever, and it was just stacked and stacked and stacked with oil barrels. And he's like, that's why we're here. Like, that's exactly why, coming back into the port wherever it was going.
It's disgusting.
It really is.
It's disgusting.
And everything on the island is just so anti-Muslim, period. Like, Lesbos used to be owned by Turkey. And it was taken over somehow, conquested, or like whatever.
However it works,
and now, like, all of the big, beautiful mosque buildings have crosses on them. They've been into Christian or Catholic churches and things like that. Like, it's just, I don't know. We even met a Muslim woman in the store, after we had just gotten done with Moria. And she, I don't even know how we got to talking, but asked us what we were doing. We said we were from, just got back with Moria, working with R4R, and she's like, those people. She's in a full burqa with a baby, a toddler, stroller, and she's like, man, this island was so beautiful before they came here.
Wow.
And I was just like, your people. Inshallah, like, God bless you.
Mm-hmm.
It was so much, like, there's so much hate all around.
That's so unfortunate. Sad. So sad.
Well, probably killed a lot of things for them. Tourist industries killed a lot of things for them.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the refugees. Yeah.
How dare they?
The whole thing, I know.
I know.
No, but the whole thing sucks for everybody. Everybody involved. It sucks for everybody involved, and that is super unfortunate. The only people it doesn't suck for is who?
Yeah, great question.
The consumers, right? The blind consumers.
Yeah, the island was pretty, but, like, there's nothing but, like, government, like, graffiti all over the place, like...
What do you mean government graffiti?
Like political towards...
Oh, political propaganda?
No, for people against, like, EU, where are you? Or, like, no human is illegal, like, borders aren't vegan, like, all sorts of just really, like, we took a whole bunch of cool pictures of
I can't wait to see the
of
presentation.
The yeah,
we're going to have a party, too. I'm going to have a party, welcome home party. I know a lot of the Happiest Market family, they've been missing you hard, wanting you to be home, and I know they want to have a party for you too, so maybe we'll plan that when you get your slideshow and everything, your presentation together. That way we can do it all at once.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Teach everybody what you did so you don't have to tell the story 50,000 times.
5 million
You're going to
times.
have to anyways.
Because you've already told it, and this is another reason why I wanted to do the podcast, so that way we can just do an authentic piece and hear it firsthand, and and you only have to tell it once.
We'll tell it to us once. Well, really, because we also were like, if we're going to do a podcast, we got to do it quick because I wanted you to be able to be fresh.
Yeah,
and plus, this is a good thing too. You could say, hey, if you want to hear all about my trip, just listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right,
Here's the link. Here you go. Here's the link.
Help my boy out with the views.
I don't have time. I don't have time to tell you, so here's the link.
So much.
So what was worst experience and best experience as far as dealing with the refugees? Best and worst time.
So my worst time was in the middle of the cyclone. I had night shift, and it was kind of sprinkling raining, but like by the time we got out there, night shifts from like 1 a.m. to 9 a.m. And by the time I got out there, it was pouring like crazy. And I mean,
when we say pouring, what are we talking like pouring?
Like monsoon pouring.
Okay.
Like it was raining, like hard. And it was coming in pockets to where it'd be like super downpour, but then even when the pocket would leave, it was still raining harder than it usually rains here.
Oh.
Like it was just consistent.
Crazy.
We're on a flat beach, like flat rock beach, and we're flooding. Like I'm like to my ankles almost in water.
Oh, wow.
My
Crazy.
shoes and socks totally wet, and like my feet were so gross at the end of the night. It was like ridiculous how pruny my whole body was.
Just one big prune.
Because no matter how much like weather gear you have on, like it only takes so
wet.
much before you're just
that's
soaked.
true.
And we had just gotten the boat report, like right as our shift started, that there was a speedboat from the north that had to call in for an SOS halfway here because it was taking in so much water that it started to capsize. And we're like, shit, like, okay, so they're still trying to cross. And we're just praying and hoping that with the weather tonight, it was like, it would be bad for the smuggler's rep or something like that, where he's like, maybe we'll do it another time or tomorrow or whatever when the weather's not so bad. But we got that report and it confirmed, like, yes, there are people who are trying to cross. And it was so rainy and foggy that literally looking into the sea was like looking into a black wall. I couldn't tell if I was on the mountain or if I was in the water. Like, it was really shitty.
Nuts.
And I had the second sleep shift that night because I needed to drive, like, at 6:45 we go to a different, like, lookout point, and I was the only driver, so slept the second shift, and I'm literally having a dream that there's a landing. Like, I'm, like, physically, like, dreaming this on the beach, Katia Beach, where we are. And in my dream, we, like, run over, I, like, jumped the cliff, kind of, and then it turned into, like, our training, where they have, like, the little raft where they, you know, do the simulation training. It was just this crazy, intense dream. Continued on for longer. It was, like, honestly, it gets so stupid, it doesn't even make sense, but, like, I was fearful for my life in, like, this dream, you know what I mean? And then Maria, I'm sorry, from Norway, she was one of my partners that night, and she, like, opened the backseat door where my head was and kind of, like, woke me up, and she's like, hey, you need to wake up, we need somebody to type. And I'm like, fuck, what does that mean? Because that means that there's two peoples with eyes on the sea. One person needs to be on the duty phone talking to the other NGOs. And I literally open my eyes and look up, and there's a boat that's only 500 kilometers from shore, which is so fucking close, with their big spotlight on.
500 meters, you mean?
Yes, 500 meters,
Okay.
I'm sorry. So less than, what is that, like a mile?
It's 1,000 feet. It's 500 feet. Well, it's
like a
5 football fields.
5 football fields.
5 football fields. Okay.
So really close. And they're, like, spotlighting the shore, and we're
Mhm.
going, like, oh my god, like, this means that there's going to be a landing, like, you need to, like, get your shit together, like, you know what I mean? And I'm typing, like, you know, at our 11 o'clock, there's, you know, I can't tell if it's Hellenic Coast Guard or if it's Frontex, but there's spotlights on, they're searching the shore, da-da-da-da-da. And for, like, 2 or 3 hours straight, there was, like, 4 or 5 different vessels all over the sea with their spotlights on, and they were going from the north shore to the south shore, like,
Looking
back
for the
and
boat.
forth, looking for something, because they don't just do that, you know what I mean,
Right.
for as long as they do. And the whole time, like, when I woke up, they both have their eyes, like, locked, like, she was on one vessel and she was on another with their spotlights on. And I just grabbed one of the UNHCR blankets and, like, pulled it over me and, like, sat on my knees, kind of, like, trying to create, like, a thing, not even thinking or, like, feeling that I'm in a puddle. So, like, as I get up, my whole legs are, like, super soaked wet now. Everything, like, the blanket was so wet, when I went to adjust it, it, like, slapped water off my face. And then my whole body was wet, so, like, I couldn't, like, dry my face off, you know what I mean? Like, it was that kind of just, like, chaos
wet.
weather night,
Yeah.
yeah. And, for, like, literally, like, 3 hours, it was constant of, like, we couldn't see anything. Like, other than the spotlight, you can't see anything because it was raining so hard and it was so
Crazy.
foggy. And there was a point where Maria, she felt like she could see life jackets, and she's like, do we post it? And I'm like, no, because if we post it, we immobilize the entire island. I'm not seeing what you see. Like, you know, and there's, like,
Right.
this kind of, like, back and forth of, like,
Yeah.
because as soon as we confirm there's a dinghy, everybody in the house is up. Everybody in, like, 4 different houses is up, and they're, like, bringing their gear. We can't do that false
Yeah,
flag.
yeah. You
know what I
can't be
mean?
wrong on that.
So there's just,
So
like,
it was it or wasn't it?
there wasn't. We actually didn't hear any report saying that there was a landing or anything like that. We just kind of have to make our own assumptions, and, like, my hope was that they were using it as, like, weather training,
Mhm.
or maybe just being super cautious because of the first boat that sent out their SOS.
Yeah.
Because if they were in a raft, they wouldn't have even made it to Greek waters before they capsized. The rain was so heavy.
Crazy. So,
So-
this was probably like big waves from the wind. And
Yeah, honestly, like, surfable waves.
Mm.
And there's
Wow.
no waves in the sea. Like, it's literally a lake. It's like
Mhm.
an ocean lake. And there was, like, 4 or 5 foot waves
Waves.
hitting the,
Wow.
like, we were almost getting splashed
Crazy.
from, like, our
Who's
toes.
manning these boats? Like, who's driving them? The refugees themselves, or
Yeah,
yeah?
the smugglers don't come across
They
with them.
don't.
They get sent on their own, and a lot of times their engines fail.
All right, buddy.
And, like, what I can't imagine too is, like, we're literally, Greece is here, and then Turkey's here, and there's, like, just a row of lights. So at some point you're in the middle of the sea. It's like,
Which side are
which
you?
side are you looking for? You know
They
what
probably
I mean?
they don't give them a compass.
I have no idea.
That's probably what they do. Stay at blah blah blah.
Stay at blah blah blah.
Stay at this azimuth.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. It's
What was the best time then? So that was the worst night.
yeah, that was the craziest night because our adrenaline was so high,
So,
and
when you were wet
the weather
and
was
miserable
crazy.
and-
We were waiting for the landing to happen, and honestly, I had gotten bit by a spider, like, right here. You could still kind of see it, and it was
Yeah.
sort of trailing up my arm. The next morning, I woke up and it had trailed up, like, my whole arm.
You had to go to the doctor for that, right?
I didn't actually.
Oh.
My coordinator, she had, like, really good antihistamines, and I was like, I drew a line. And I'm like, if by the end of the night it's beyond the line, we'll
Then
go.
we'll figure it out,
If
yeah.
not, we'll be fine. And it started to get better. So
Oh, good.
Good news.
yeah, good news. But, like, it stressed my body out big time, and our emotions too, because, like, we just didn't know. Like, we had to try and go to sleep at the end of our shift, like, thinking that there's, like,
People
dead bodies
possibly
from
out
where
there.
we could see, because they were so close to shore. They wouldn't have been there if they weren't close to us.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It was just, like, a really crazy fucking scary movie. And then the best time, I don't know. I mean, honestly, probably socials. Socials were fun because, like, I was always in charge of the yarn, so I'd hand out, like, different colored strings to kids, and, like, we'd make bracelets together. And I have, like, 5 of them that were given to me by little kids, you know. Yeah. And it was just fun. They'd sit on your lap, or they'd, like, tie it, and then they'd hold it while, like, I sit there and I braid it, you know what I mean? Yeah. Or I'd hold it for them while they tried and learned.
Did you teach them any American games they didn't know? Like, you're like, oh, let's play hide and seek, or
Uno.
You played Uno with them.
Yeah, we played Uno with them because it teaches them colors and numbers.
Yeah. Numbers, yeah.
And then Twister.
Fun.
Anything that was kind of educational as well, you know.
Yeah.
Socials were the funnest, but they're also kind of tough because, like, we give these kids Legos and they make machine guns, or we give them paper and colored pencils and they're drawing people getting decapitated on the, you know, island, and like people shooting at their boat, and you know. There was one little girl that went to my coordinator and was like, "This is you guys, this is us." And it was like a big ship, like Frontex, shooting at a little raft. And we're just like, "No, it's not us." Like, no, like, that's not, like, God fucking shit, you know what I mean? Like,
wow.
How do you explain to someone who doesn't speak English? All they know is you're white and you're from Greece, so this is you guys. It was crazy. The whole thing was just crazy. We probably need the whole 48 hours to talk about it all.
Probably, yeah.
How are you feeling?
I feel okay. I feel a little, like, stuck, I guess, because I was really used to having, like, a schedule, and everything that we did was really, like, contributing, and, like, you know, I had made, like, relationships with kids, so it was always, like, exciting to, like, oh, here's a couple.
Go to work.
Yeah, a couple candies for Orion, or, you know what I mean, where I sneak it in their pocket or whatever, and like, even just, like, sorting, like, the clothes at distribution, like, my least favorite activity in the world, because it was so dusty and just, like, but, like, even just having, like, that work, you know what I mean? And then being home is, I don't know. I feel like a lull.
So when you go back?
Within the next few months, probably. Depending on what happens with this agreement right now between Turkey and Russia. Like, if they start, like, picking up big time, then I'll be out there as soon as I can.
I thought you were going to say the opposite.
No, they're talking like 40 to 60 ships a day. And if they're getting 40 to 60 rafts a day, like, I didn't see a landing the whole time I was there, and I was there for a month. If they're, like, it's literally a numbers game at that point, and we'd be on the next. We already talked about it, too. Like, we have the money saved in, like, our Sisters All-in-One account, where we would buy a van that we could sleep in, and we'd go independently, because we learned being affiliated with the NGO really limited what we were able to do.
Oh.
And
so you can go there as an independent volunteer? Odd.
Yep. Especially because we're not affiliated with the Moria camp itself. We're just on the public property that all these refugees are on. So we could do whatever we want.
What does it take to volunteer in Moria?
You have to be a doctor. Right now, it's pretty much all that they allow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
and there's only 2 doctors right now for the entire camp.
Wow, so who's manning that place? I don't understand.
I think there's like 4 to 10 stakeholders, and they're all big organizations. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
Like, super big organizations. Like, I don't want to, like, name drop because I'm not 100% accurate, but one of my coordinators went to a meeting with all the stakeholders because she's, like, the coordinator of this NGO, you know, that works there. And there was an argument that broke out about the blankets and about how there's not enough blankets. And 2 of the groups were pretty much fighting back and forth as far as, well, that's your job to provide. No, it's not our job to provide. You guys need to do this because we provided this. So it's a lot of, like, that back and forth as well.
Not wanting to take responsibility and just pointing fingers back and forth.
And then the owner of Moria was like, you know what, this is a vacation compared to where they're from. Like, they need to pretty much suck it up. Like, this is a vacation compared to Yemen. We're like, oh my God, are you serious? Like, stay the night. That's what everybody that told us, too, that we were there interviewing. They're like, if you really want to know what it's like, stay the night. I guess there's, like, snakes and scorpions, and, like, a few kids died last year getting bit by snakes, and they're not being quick enough, you know, medical attention and things like that. Like, I don't know. It was crazy.
So you're going to stay the night there, then?
Yeah, no, I don't know.
So do you think, like, here at home, how do you feel about all this stuff? Like, I gotta think you feel differently, because you didn't have much when you went over there. You took a backpack.
Yeah.
Right? So you lived super minimal.
Yeah, I didn't even wear all my clothes.
So how's this like? How was that feel for you? All this stuff.
It was really humbling, like the whole experience, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to keep my judgment glasses off because that's not good for me or for anybody else.
Right.
And it's not right for me to say, like, how can you complain about this? Because
Right.
their complaints are, you know what I
Your
mean?
suffering's
Like,
relative.
exactly,
Yeah.
like to you, yeah, exactly. So I've just been really quiet, kind of, and just like grounding myself a little bit more before I allow myself to think. You know, like, I really am not on Facebook. I can't be. Like, honestly, even like after a week of being there, scrolling on the internet, I'm like, oh my God, what is wrong with you people? Like, I can't even, like,
Yeah, that makes sense.
You're dwelling on dumb shit.
yeah, exactly. Or the memes, or like, you know, I still have not even caught up on like the Kavanaugh thing that just happened, but to see like women posting things about like a picture of the chick from like high school saying like, yeah, and like you got molested, like just terrible, like women on women and like all this stuff. I'm like, you guys, like, this is so shallow. Like, what is happening?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just can't.
That's such a good word. That's the word that's been just slipping through this whole thing has been shallow.
It's just shallow. It's just shallow. And then, like, I don't know, the whole Facebook thing is annoying. And
In
then,
general.
in general, yeah. And I used to be able to ignore it, but now I can't. Because I would even post, like, pictures of me, like, all bundled up on the beach, like oh, it's freezing, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I couldn't help but, like, be grateful because I was freezing on the beach instead of freezing on the water, blah, blah, blah. And I'm getting, like, all these comments, like, you know, stay warm, you know, be safe, da-da-da-da-da. And then my next post is a video from the inside of one of these tents in the same weather, right? And my thing that I'd say, I'm like, you know, you all care about my picture, but if I was sitting in this tent, you would do something about it. You know what I mean? You would care. It would agitate you, but it's easy for you just to scroll past. And I got like 2 likes on it, and I'm like, you fucking bitches, like, you know what I mean? So
No, you're not surprised.
and you can't be, obviously, but that's just kind of where I'm
I
at
blame
with
Facebook
everything.
For that. I think Facebook purposely hides
I'm sure
important posts.
that some of the comments you got too were like, so pretty. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No joke.
Yeah, because people don't even read a lot of times. I don't want to get on Facebook conversations.
But that's just like a blanket feeling, I guess, of what
Totally.
it's like being home, you know? Like the billboards and just like, I don't know, especially here in Vegas too, like driving like past the Strip and all like the Capitol.
It is sensory overload here.
Seriously, the lights, everything. I'm just like, this is a lot. That's why I kind of just like hung out in my garage for the past few days,
Yeah,
like
caught up with Nick and.
yeah, and caught up on like jet lag. Jesus.
Yeah, you
I
feeling
swear.
better
How
on
long
that?
was your flight back?
Flights. It was like 54 hours of travel time.
54 hours to get back. Jeez, that's a long time in the air.
In the air,
I'm
though,
kidding.
I was gonna say, I think in the air it was like 18 hours.
And you flew from
So we flew from Atlanta to Athens, Athens to London, London to Chicago, Chicago to Vegas.
and you had time in
Athens and London, which was cool. We got to see like the Parthenon and the Acropolis, and then we got there really late in London, or late to London, and like 3 of our volunteer mates that we had met in the house were all in London at the same time.
Oh, cool.
So we actually got picked up by, you know, someone that lives there. We stayed with a volunteer. He let us sleep in his bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, so
that's
we,
cool.
Did you get to go out all in London? And
yeah, it was rainy, as you know, you would
It's
imagine,
London,
and it was really late. So we pretty much just drove around the whole city and saw all of like the monuments from
real quick.
So we saw like the Windsor Castle. We saw, you know, the Natural History Museum, like the cool Harry Potter castle. You know what I mean? Like
Neat.
all the things.
All the stuff.
Yeah.
Real quick, though.
Real quick, and then we went and got Lebanese food because it was like the only place that was open. And it was funny because like all 5 of us like humanitarians are like sitting around the table not drinking anything at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning talking about like, so how do we fix this problem?
Right.
Like, so what do we, you know, we drop off Fabian and he's like, you are the only people that can keep me out this late without a fucking beer. Like, what is wrong with us? It was fun.
That's cute. It's neat. It sounds like you made some good friends.
Oh yeah,
Lifetime friends?
definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
cool.
I mean, like, friends enough to where, like, Nathan, he only lived together for, like, 4 days before he left, and he was like, oh, you're coming through London? Amazing. You can stay in my house, you know?
That's cool.
Yeah, it was neat.
That's really cool.
That is super awesome.
What an adventure.
It was. It
Yeah.
was. And it was nice to be able to, like, start it and end it with a vacation, because on our
Absolutely.
way there, we had, like, the long layover in Chicago and then Belgium.
Chicago looked dope on the way. You guys had a blast.
It was so fun, and we had like an actual whole day there. So like, and she knew people that like lived there, so they kind of took us around to all the cool spots.
Yeah,
And
Chicago didn't look boring.
it wasn't. It wasn't at all. And then Belgium was just beautiful, like breathtakingly beautiful.
So nice.
Like,
Where was the place where everybody's really rude?
Brussels.
Brussels?
Yeah, Belgium. Like at the airport, man, they didn't give a shit about what we wanted or asked for at all.
That was customer service people being that way?
Yes.
Oh, that's nuts.
It was insane. They were so just flippant. Like, you know, how do we get to the arrivals? Because there's no signs that had words in Belgium at the airport. Like, they're all like pictures. And even our like departures, the planes like coming down and arrival, the planes like leave or whatever, like backwards that is.
Yeah.
It's like literally going left or right.
Pictures.
And we're like, where did we just come from? Like, did we come from the plane going right, or did we come, you know? So we're like, how do we get to departures? Like, I mean, yeah, we're trying to check our stuff. Our flight's in like 12 hours or whatever. And they're like, oh, just go all the way to the right, and, you know, the elevator will be on your left. And then we get all the way to the end, and there's no elevators. And we're, like, lugging all of our stuff around, which is really heavy and annoying.
Purposely telling you to go the wrong way.
And we finally get up to the gate, and they're like, actually, you can't check in until about 2 hours before. And our flight's at 6 a.m. So I'm like, okay, so what do we do with our stuff? Like, I was hoping we could check our bags, so that way we could, like, go around and do whatever. And they're like, just go downstairs, more directions, to the bus terminal, and there will be lockers that you guys can pay for to, like, store your things. We're like, cool. Another 45 minutes, we eventually find the lockers after speaking to, like, 3 more people. And every fucking locker is broken. And we're like, oh, no. So we got to make the choice, like, are we going to go see the city, or are we going to be, like, stuck in the airport
with your shit.
because we're tired of, you know, whatever. So we're like, all right, fuck it, we're going. You know, we can't not. We're here, you know.
Yeah.
We're just going to go to this one place. My dad had sent me, like, a blog that was, like, top things to see or whatever. So we went to the number 1. We're like, let's just go there.
That's cool.
Place, yeah.
And,
with luggage in tow.
Fucking so much luggage. Which was great because when we met Kiki, which is, like, our drummer friend, he was like, I just thought you guys were homeless. And I'm like, fuck yes. Like, that means no one's going to fuck with us thinking that we're, like, travel as tourists, you know? Because Tammy and I both kind of have, like, the rugged, like, style, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you guys do look a little homeless.
You guys do pull off the homeless look.
Which was cool.
I was like, the street traveler look, not the homeless.
No.
The kids who want to be out there, they're traveling all over.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and he's like, I wouldn't think you had anything of importance in those bags. We're like, fuck yeah. So, which was cool, and we got to enjoy, like, local nightlife, honestly. And he took us to all the cool bars, and, like, we sat in the square and, like, played music and sang and danced and did all sorts of fun stuff. And then we left. And then, like, as we're in the airport going back, like, everybody was so annoyed with us for some reason. Like, we would just be speaking and get dirty looks. And we're like, this is English. Yes, we're American. Like,
they don't like American.
I don't understand. Yeah. Which I was kind of surprised about, but.
Fuck them.
It was fun, regardless. It was beautiful. It looked like it was straight out of a movie.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Super antique.
Oldie times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big time. Renaissance era, you know?
Dope.
It was cool. And I actually, it's so funny because it's so, like, new and awesome to us, you know, like, whereas you see Vegas and it's like, you know? One of the girls from Norway, she had asked to see, like, the vlog, and the very first, like, scene where I'm like, you guys, this is so beautiful, I could cry right now, look at what I'm looking at. And I turn the screen and it's like, it's of these beautiful buildings, but it's just of, like, a city street, like, it's literally nothing special. She just laughed. And I'm like, what's funny about that? She's like, what am I supposed to be looking at? And I'm like, the buildings. Like, the buildings are really cool.
Yeah, but they don't, like, people who are from places that are old. They don't see, they're not, like, here, there's nothing that age.
No.
You know what I mean? Some
Not
of their
at all.
houses are older than our country.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so, yeah, it's intriguing to us.
It's impressive.
It is
They
impressive.
don't make shit the way they used to.
Seriously. It was kind of cool that I saw Chicago before London, too, because Chicago and London are so identical, and it just makes sense, you know, like, our colonials on the East Coast, of course, their architects, like, built the same way, yeah. It was neat.
That's cool.
Well, cool.
Well, cool.
You're right, there probably is 45 hours worth of material.
It's all good.
But we'll keep it at an hour.
That's the gist.
Sounds like an awesome trip.
It does.
And any regrets? Do you have any regrets going?
My only regret is not bringing one of those, like, charged battery packs that you can like charge your phone on the go with. That would have made my
Get a dead
experience
battery often?
much better.
Yeah.
No, there was just a few times where like I didn't have my plug converter or things like that. That, you know what I mean? Especially traveling back when we went through London, and then like my plug converter from Europe wasn't the same as what I needed for London. You know what I mean? I'm just like, oh. But other than that, no regrets. I probably would have packed lighter.
Oh.
And that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah. I ended up not wearing like any of the clothes I brought, so it was like just wasted
space.
Shit. Yeah.
Should have mailed it home then.
Yeah, no joke. Yeah.
Funny.
I would have brought a backpack home and mailed my shit.
Really?
Yeah.
Honestly, my bag was so heavy coming home because I brought home all the dinghy and the life jacket material for like upcycling.
For sure.
It was so fucking stupid heavy. They
It
almost
would have
didn't
cost you
let
an
me
arm and a
check
leg.
it. Yeah, it would have.
What is in here, young lady?
Oh, just
How are you carrying this?
smuggler. Where'd you get all this stuff?
Nowhere.
Nowhere. I found it on the beach.
What?
Really, they're just everywhere on the beach. Like, go yourself.
Right.
So many life jackets and dinghies. It's ridiculous.
That sucks, man.
I'm glad you went.
Yeah, me too.
It's awesome. I'm not glad you're going again, but I understand and I think it's cool. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get your presentation together so we can put that on.
Yeah, definitely.
Get this thing out and start educating.
It's not done yet?
No, fuck
Start
no, it's not done
educating
yet.
people and really getting the word out so people can maybe start doing something, writing to their congress member or something to try and change things.
Yeah.
Let's end the wars, man. This is stupid.
Peace is possible.
Really bad, you know, and this is yours. What you went to go see and experience is a whole side that we don't ever think about.
Right.
It's a perspective we don't have the opportunity to think about either.
Right.
You know, so it's important to be told that way people can understand. You know, when you're supporting war, you're supporting this.
Exactly.
This suffering. You really want to support this kind of suffering on innocent people?
The suffering the government tries so hard to keep out of the media.
Right. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, yeah, let's do this. A lot of work to get done.
Yep.
So.
Peace.
Thanks,
Love
everybody.
you.
Bye.